everyone. Welcome to the Duke London podcast. We are introducing a little collaboration that we have. We are in collaboration for the next few episodes with One Dance UK, Breakin Convention, and Project Breakalign. Speaking of the latter, we have a special guest with us, or not with us, but calling in via Zoom, Nefeli Smash from Project Breakalign. Hi, Nefeli.
Hi.
How are you? Where are you in the world right now? Tell the people where you are.
I'm in Cyprus, the little island in Europe.
Oh, is that where you are full time now?
Yes, I've been here for the last few years. So yeah.
Oh, amazing.
I'm here.
So, first of all, I mean, I've known you for a long time now, I think. Like, I can't remember. Like maybe 10 years or something when we first met.
I think more than that. I don't even know where I met you first.
Yeah, that was just a long time ago. Like when I first met you or knew, I don't even remember where I first met you, but yeah, when I first knew you, you were a B-girl in the UK dance scene and you were battling and taking people's heads off. And, you know, now you're running this whole organization, you're living in Cyprus. So tell me kind of, first of all, like the journey, like obviously starting from being a competitive dancer, and then what's the gap in between? How do we get to where we are now?
Well, I started from being a ballet dancer actually.
Oh wow.
Before I was a breaker. Yeah. So way back in the 90s. I used to do ballet and contemporary dancer. And then I like in 99 I started getting into hip hop, and it's in 2006 that I actually started breaking. Like when I first saw it with my own eyes, when I got out of Cyprus basically.
Oh wow.
And I saw it face to face and I fell in love with it. So that's when I got involved with it. So in between like 2006 and where we are now, many like injuries occurred on my body. And like the very first one after starting breaking was needing to have like an operation on my shoulder. And that completely like changed like my view and my perspective and everything that I had planned. Did you
get the injury from breaking?
I did. Oof. I got the injury from breaking. I repeatedly got the injury from breaking. So I kept dislocating my shoulder basically.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For like about a year. I lasted for about a year, like doing that all the time because of being too hungry, you know, to just keep training and avoiding any doctors, any medicine at all.
So you weren't really recovering properly in between. You were just like, all right, let's go back out and do what we can.
Not at all. I didn't even know. Like I wasn't even aware of what was happening to me. I just wanted to get back to training, and I would just go ahead and do that with no knowledge at all.
You just said this hurt. Let's move on.
Yeah, kind of. You know, when you're younger, you recuperate faster, and you think, oh, it's okay. It just happened, and it might happen again, but I'll be fine again.
Yeah.
So you just keep doing that. Unfortunately, that chronic, like putting a toll on your body actually. You have to pay for it afterwards. So I had to pay for it with a surgery, which completely changed like the balance of my body and how I view things as well. Not just as far as pain, but as well as how I actually see dance and how much tolerance I have as far as pain anymore. So after that, I kept competing. I actually was really deep into competing, really deep into training, even though the doctors told me I wouldn't be able to dance. I fought through it as much as I could.
This is after the surgery?
This is after the surgery. It's when I found Renegade. When I moved to the UK, basically, I found him and I said, please help me and guide me so that I don't get hurt, basically, so that I have somebody to, walk me through things. So he took me like under his wing alongside with like the other people, living room, kitchen people, all of that.
Yeah. Shout out to Kev's kitchen.
Yeah. It wasn't a kitchen back then, but now it is.
Kev's living room. Doesn't sound as catchy.
So but unfortunately that surgery completely, changed the balance of everything in my body, and I kept getting injured. It wasn't a case of having a coach taking care of me. It was a case of me understanding like what to do to balance everything out. and I didn't have the knowledge for that. So a few years in, I decided that, okay, I need to like take this into my hands. There, like, I cannot find any physios, any doctors, anyone who can actually guide me on how to stop this like chain effect of just getting injured everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's when I started Breakalign, Project Breakalign in 2013. I had the idea of putting together like a team of specialists, people who like have knowledge on science as well as dance, or specifically breaking. And we all got together for a few months. We were brainstorming, just getting ideas out on how, like, what do we do for breakers initially. That was the idea.
Where did you find these people?
I found them through connections, basically, through people that I knew. So like the original team, for example, was Renegade. It was Big Girl Sansan, Sunanda. It was Erin from One Dance UK, Mark Archer, he's a physio, working with dancers. Like a few people that had, you know, they
similar
were
interests.
in the scene, like, and they could offer something valuable. And the project slowly started back in 2013. I don't know if you want me to keep going.
Yeah. Tell me the whole story.
Okay. So initially started like that. And then we decided that we need to do some research, like dance science research, because there isn't really any in breaking or hip hop styles. At the time, there was like maybe like 2-3 papers published on like injuries of hip hop dancers generally. But people from the scene, you know, people who had actual knowledge on these dancers were not involved in doing anything like that. So we had to take that into our hands as well. So in 2015, we started doing research. So we've been doing research for the last 7 years, including physiology, biomechanics, injury prevalence, nutrition, just trying to look at various sectors around breakers specifically. But we have also looked at like hip hop dancers, house dancers, and, you know, other dancers in the umbrella of hip hop as well. So what's the point of doing research? To translate basically the information that you get from, you know, from science and bring it to the community. Because what's the point of doing it if, you know, other researchers just go ahead and replicate it, if you don't bring it to the community who actually needs it to, you know, have longer careers and less injuries and just a better quality of life, basically. So this is roughly like what has happened.
Great.
Throughout.
And in Cyprus, are you kind of working with breakers there, or are you working kind of worldwide just from your base in Cyprus?
I would say my biggest influence on breakers and hip hop dancers is abroad, to be honest. I do work with many dancers here. Like most of my patients, I work as a physiotherapist now here in a clinic. Most of my patients are ballet contemporary dancers, to be honest. So I do have a lot of clinical experience on them here. But when I travel, for example, at Breakin Convention, when we do like backstage treatments, we do it on the dancers of the festival. So like Breakalign is specifically involved, you know, within those dancers. But me as Nefeli, I also have experience in like ballet contemporary dancers. And, you know, it's good because it makes you see the dancer's body from other perspectives as well. And you can actually feed into the other dancers like that better.
Definitely.
I think it's a good way.
And did you, at some point in this journey from ballet dancer to Breakalign and physiotherapist, did you study something around this, or how did that come in?
Studied a few things. So when I first started Breakalign, my education, like up to that point, was a degree in French literature, which is irrelevant.
Okay.
I could talk to like French dancers though.
Yeah, that helps. And nothing's irrelevant.
I had my master's in choreography, which is like more, you know, theory and composition of dance based.
Yeah.
And when I started Breakalign, and I had all these amazing like scientists in my hands, I thought I need to like step up my game. And Erin also helped me to like go more into go to university again.
Oh wow.
So I did my master's of science in dance science at Trinity Labans. So I did that. And then I did the diploma in sports massage therapy to like become a clinician basically. and then I did a degree in physical therapy.
Oh my God, that's a lot of degrees.
Which I completed here in Cyprus. So yeah, and probably a PhD soon, just not right now.
So it's safe to say you know what you're talking about. You've got all the diplomas.
I study a lot.
Yeah. No, but that's great. And what I think is really cool is, you know, the idea that you're doing a lot of this to give back to this kind of community that you know and have identified that, you know, people need this this thing. Because I think what happens a lot of times in the dance scene is, you know, people will gain specialisms or go through things to gain knowledge or study or whatever, and then they kind of go off into that industry because that industry is, you know, has more money or whatever it might be. But it's nice, you know, that you are able to do what you do and make money and as well give back to the community and help breakers and dancers as well, you know. I think that's dope.
Thank you for recognizing that. It's exactly as you're saying it. Maybe that's why, like, in my clinical work, I have mostly ballet contemporary dancers, because like I have to, you know, get some money to live, so that I can do all the rest of the things that I don't really have funding for everything I'm doing. Like, most of the research that we're doing is not really funded by anyone. It's our own time. It's our own efforts. There's probably some money sometimes, but I've never been paid a salary to do research. And so yeah, it's good to have this recognition. Thank you.
If you're out there listening, Red Bull or Nike, there's someone here that needs the support. No, but I think, you know, I think also what's good is, I think it's kind of like a vicious circle in a way, you know, where sometimes these people that become experts in their field leave the scene, and then the scene is left without those experts, and then therefore we can't build something that is gonna get us paid. You know what I mean? So like, if you know, you obviously have now with the Olympics and BC1 and Red Bull and these sponsorships coming in, and now there's a bit, you know, there are probably at Red Bull Global, there is probably physiotherapists and people that they're employing, but that's only possible because the scene has kind of grown to that level. But if physiotherapists and people who knew about injury and building the body stayed in the scene and helped the scene, maybe that would have happened quicker or to a bigger degree. So I think it's like people like you that are going to help us get to that point where there's more money to be able to, you know what I mean? It's like a feedback loop.
Yeah, it is. And I think we can see people's motive. So it all comes down to that. And like, from my experience, because like Breakalign started as something very personal to me. Yeah. And like, in the end, I lost my passion to perform like myself because of, like, you know, the pain and the chronic injuries. And I found the passion in helping others not have to go through that. Yeah. So I think because it's so embedded inside me, you know, you can probably see the motive that, you know, Breakalign has because of this vision that I have. But you know, people have to survive as well. It's good to always give back. Yeah. And 100%. I would always support people who give back.
Yeah. Same. I totally agree. So let's talk about dancers then. We can be an uneducated bunch in terms of the body and in terms of, you know, looking after ourselves, which is hilarious for a group of people that solely rely on our bodies, you know, like and, you know, it definitely speaks to the infrastructure of the scene and that type of thing. But, you know, if you look at football players or athletes or runners or this type of thing, it's like built in that you have to understand injuries, you have to understand your body. Like, there's dancers that don't know like what an ACL tear is, but like in basketball that's like a super common term. It's like, oh, this guy got an ACL tear, he's out for this many, like, it's just something that people know what it is, even if before we even talk about preventing it or anything like that, you know. It's just like, oh yeah, we all know what this thing is because it happens to people. In dance it's like, oh, what's a rotator cuff? Like, it's, you know, even me, like, I know a little bit of stuff. My parents are both gymnasts, so they kind of grew up like teaching me about the body, and my mum was quite a high level competitive gymnast, so she kind of grew up talking me through this stuff, especially when I started dancing and I played basketball and stuff. But even me, I'm super uneducated about the body and stuff like that. So what's the most common areas of problem areas, let's say, that you identify with dancers? Is it the training? Is it the nutrition? Is it the injury prevention or recovery? Like, where's the biggest like You guys are doing this all wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. I think the biggest problem is somewhere in here.
Usually is.
So before we go like into practical things like warm up and stretching and stuff like that, which we will always find problematic systems there. Like we did a global research a few years ago, and it was like a survey on breakers specifically, and there was a question that said it's already published, so it's somewhere out there.
Okay.
The question said, who do you trust to guide your return to breaking after an injury? So there were some options there, like my friends, my family, my B-girls, B-boys, the doctor, the physio. They were like the medical side, like the specialists, and then like the personal side. And there were like really big percentages choosing like the personal side. So like my friend or my co-breaker who also had the same injury, like answers that show us that they have this like, trust in the community, and they're very based like around who's around them.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily good for your health, because the person that you think had the same injury as you, maybe they didn't. Maybe they just had one symptom the same as you.
Yeah. Oh, I had my knee hurt too. It's probably that. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this like lack of awareness, a bit ignorance, I think is very detrimental, and I see it all the time, unfortunately. I think that's the basic problem.
Yeah.
Now, apart from that, I think the other problem is, I can enumerate like 12 problems maybe, which we have seen with research as well. It's not just my opinion.
Yeah.
But I would say like progressive overload. So this is like a principle of training. It's called progressive overload, and it basically means progressively loading the body. This is not really taking place. So it's not really happening within training, within warm-ups, within cool-downs. So people just throw themselves in with no structure, with no preparation. They try to do moves that their body's not ready for.
Yes.
If you progressively load the body and make it ready for the move, you wouldn't get injured. So that principle, I think, that understanding of that principle for me is like the basic practical problem that like hip hop dancers have in general.
Right. So, I mean, it's I guess the easiest way to describe that progressive overload approach is like when people are working out, right? It's like you don't you don't walk into the gym and like pick up the biggest weights. Like you start with the weights that are kind of, you can lift, but like they're a bit hard. And then if you get those for a week or a month or whatever, then you go the next time and you up it in progressive things. And obviously you have to overload, I would imagine, again, please correct me if I'm talking rubbish, but you would have to overload the muscles in order to gain strength. That's the point, is if you're doing stuff that is easy for you, you're not, whether it's the amount of reps or it's the weight, you have to overload them in order to grow your strength. But if you just go in at the top, your body's just going to get injured because you're not, it has to be in a right balance, correct?
You said it better than me. Yeah, that's correct.
I just said it in the uneducated way.
No, that's amazing. And you can, like this is applicable also in like more superficial manner. So let's say in one session, so how you actually progress the session.
This is what I was going to ask you.
But also how you progress each session every week throughout the months,
Yeah.
So both.
Yeah, I mean, because this is something I'm familiar with in terms of, as obviously you can tell by how well chiseled my body is, but you can tell, but because the way when you work out, obviously you have to do that in order to make progression over a long time, because you're not really going to walk out of the gym on the first day with huge muscles, right? It's just impossible. So we know that we have to go in increments and keep consistent. But in the same way, when we're training, and I would imagine, I haven't really trained breaking, but you're not going to walk in with a 6-step and walk out with air flares, right? Like there's stages of build, and obviously there's the technique to that. And I think maybe there's people that are focused more on the technique than the strength it requires, but it's like I don't know what the progressive overload towards air flares would be. I have no idea. But if you're doing something like that, I would imagine your muscles, you can't just even try an air flare, because that's how you're going to mess yourself up, because the strength it requires and in those positions that it requires that's where your muscles are weak. And if you don't build up step by step, this is where injuries are going to occur.
Yeah, correct. Where air flare is a case of technique as well as strength, as well as power.
Mm-hmm.
But to start the air flare, you have to have like some prerequisites. So you already need to be able to do some other moves in order to start it, or else as soon as you start trying it, you just smash your face. So the same thing applies here.
Yeah. And I would imagine also there is positions that, like, you know, our muscles are, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but like our muscles are used to working in certain ways. So then if we get into positions where we've never really trained, you know, with our arms back, or like different positions where our body isn't used to being strong, that's where it's like we're our most vulnerable, because we're like, oh, of course I can lift my body weight, I can do a handstand, I can do a push-up, but that's here and here, not like here backwards or leaning over to the side. And that's maybe where you're more vulnerable than you might think you are.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And like people tend to avoid the positions that they're not very comfortable in, maybe because their body doesn't help them do that.
Sure.
So if you're really muscular, like in your shoulders, you might not have like the full range of motion that is required by certain moves.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you try the move within the momentum and within the like gravity and the body weight, you might get into that move that your body cannot do and get injured because of that extreme range of motion for your own capacity, basically. So yes, that's why it's important to do like mobility training, stretching, strength, power, like all types of training, because you never really know when you're going to need it. If you do strengthen your body in all ways that you need, then you're much more protected no matter what you do. You don't have to always think, okay, I want to do this move. Is my body ready for that? Have I done like all the physical components that I need for that? Like that's too geeky. You don't need to do that. But as long as you just do all the strength and power training that you need, you will probably have most of the elements that you need. And this is what the Breakalign method, which is like, it's like a product of Project Breakalign.
Okay.
It's like the research that we got funding for.
Yeah.
And we created this methodology. This is what it basically says. It says, prepare your body physically for all the moves that you do in breaking, or at least for as many moves as we can. Let's not say that we cover everything, because it's impossible. So it teaches you all the principles that you need to know as far as preparation for the style, which is, in our opinion, the best way to protect yourself, basically.
So how would you go about, how would you go about preparing yourself? You know, obviously you can't tell me the entire, take me through the entire thing, but how would you prepare yourself, your body for, because I guess in something like breaking, there's a million eventualities of positions that you could end up in. Could be anything that you end up, you know, you might throw a move that you've never tried before and it just happens to work out. So how do you prepare the body for all these kind of ambiguous endings?
Well, the method as such does not necessarily include all these ambiguous and limitless possibilities that you know, any crazy people will think of. It includes like preparation for all the fundamental, or at least established moves that we all know, basically. But the key thing is that it makes you, like, through this education, it makes you understand the principles and therefore apply those principles in relation to your body, as well as who you teach. So it makes you also see in others, like you gain an eye, that makes you recognize some things that maybe before you wouldn't see them in the same way. So for example, if I go to see a performance, ever since I became like a scientist and I got into health, I've never looked at the performance in the same eye that I did before. Like I always look at the biomechanics, like if the dancer looks like physiologically prepared for what they're doing. Like it's a geeky way of seeing it, but you just start recognizing things in a different way. And this is very important for Breakalign in general to offer this education to people and not just say these are the 3 exercises that will save your life. It's not about that. What if you do those 3 exercises wrongly?
Yeah.
Am I still like, did I still teach you anything?
Yeah.
But what if you understand the principles and I give you no exercises? That's more important for us.
Yeah, I think also, you know, I guess to boil it down, it's just kind of understanding the body and how it works. And I guess it's like, you know, I talk about this a lot more in an artistic way, I guess, because I think for me as a dancer, you have to understand your body in the sense of how it moves and what looks good on you and what your tastes are in terms of artistically how you like to see a body move or what you like to do with it, right? But I think if you think of, you know, I do photography as well, right? And a lot of my, you know, I spent a lot of time practicing, shooting, researching good pictures and stuff, but I spent a lot of time researching how a camera works. So like, what is happening inside this magic box in my hand? Like, how does the light go in? What's received? And it's like, I didn't have a reason necessarily that I needed to know a certain thing, like, oh, I need to fix this. It was just, I need to understand how this machine works, because at some point this is going to play into how I take pictures, or something's going to go wrong and I'm going to go, oh, well, this is happening. It's probably the sensor. It's probably this. Like, it just, to know the tools that you're working with. You know, Lewis Hamilton might not be working on his own engine, but I'm damn sure he knows how a car engine works. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's probably not lifting the hood and going, oh, what's that thing? You know what I mean? So I think in the same way, it's like, as a dancer, our main tool is our body. Yes, we, like, I would always advocate we have to know about staging, we have to know about lighting, we have to know about music, we have to be experts on music, but at more than maybe any of it, we have to be experts on our body. And whether that's for an artistic gain or a health and longevity gain, it's like, how can you not understand these principles, like you're saying, of your body for any reason? Because, you know, if you feel a twinge in your knee, you can't be like, I don't even know what's in there, you know, let alone what this problem might be. You know, obviously we have specialists like you to help, but yeah, I think it's important for people to be informed, no?
Yes, what you're saying is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. And it's also a case of, like, nowadays it's 2022, like there's so much information out there. It's very important to filter who you're like learning from, who you're listening to, and who's actually guiding you in some things.
Yeah.
And it's good to look up to people, but it's also important to know what their knowledge limits are. It doesn't mean that people want to hurt you and they want to, you know, intentionally do harm to you.
Yeah.
But we need to know who we're listening to about things. Like, I wouldn't go out, like, I have all this education behind me, like all this experience, but because I don't choreograph as I used to, like when I was actually a choreographer, even though I have a master's in choreography, like I know all the, you know, all the theory, all the social concepts and stuff, but because I'm not really active in that right now, I'm not going to go and preach about it now. You know, so it's important to know where the information comes from.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's some stuff where it's like there's a lot of unhealthy things that were, I guess, built into how we, I can definitely speak from a basketball perspective. Like, some of my old coaches used to just say you know, like there was thing in sport for a long time that was like water was a reward. Like, if you work hard enough, I might let you have a drink of water. And it's like, nowadays, it's like, that's wild. It's like, you need that to operate properly. But it was like, oh, you don't need water. Water is for weak people. You know what I mean? Like, this whole like unhealthy mindset, which was, you know, was built
into... That's abuse now.
Exactly. And, you know, it's like, I mean, maybe they could have done some research, but it's also like you're saying, it's like knowledge progresses and things change and we learn more about the body and information is more widely accessible. So yeah, it's like you've got to recognize, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm pretty sure what you're saying is not true.
Yeah, true. I think what you're saying about the basket comes from like the mentality of no pain, no gain. Like, you have to pay your dues and all of that.
Yeah.
Which is something that was was more old school. I'm happy to see that it's slowly like fading away, at least in some communities, because we can still work hard and, you know, bust our asses off.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but do it in the right way, you know, have barriers as far as respecting also our bodies and our limits.
Yeah.
Because we know that when we go off our limits, we're probably doing some damage, which you cannot always see at the moment. But even like chronic inflammation is a thing, and it has been proven. So, I mean, by science. So yeah, the no pain, no gain for me is no pain, more gain.
Yeah. And, you know, I think maybe where that could have come from as well is that like any negative, in air quotes, feeling that you get is something to be pushed through. And I think there's so much nuance to that. Like anyone that's ever done physical anything knows that like if you start to know your body, you know the difference between like muscle soreness and something wrong. Like if I work out, like I can tell you immediately, and I'm not, you know, like I was joking before, like I really don't work out anywhere near as much as I should, but I can do one gym session and tell you, oh, that's like my pecs just being sore, or oh no, I've strained something, or I've like done too much. And it's like, if you use your body for enough years, or you understand, you know, okay, there's the negative, again in air quotes, feeling of being sore and a good workout and like my muscles are tired, or that's something wrong. And if you don't identify that and you just push through everything and you're like, oh, this kind of hurts, but oh, that's all right, I'll just keep going, and you don't know those differences, you're gonna really mess up. Because there's been times where I've been like, I've had to just stop, and I'm like, I can't, like, you know, it may be embarrassing, or I may be working out with friends and I'm like, I feel like the weak one or whatever it is, but I have to stop, and I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I know that this is going to end up making me not be able to use my arm for a week or whatever it is if I push through this and do heavier weights. But, you know, there's a lot of people that, you know, in a more casual setting, let's say in a breaking session or a cypher jam, like they're not going to make that decision to stop and prioritize their body, you know?
Mm-hmm. And this also comes from experience, I guess, because you feel one day that, oh no, like I did this hard session yesterday, I feel so sore today, but 2 days after you're fine because it goes away. So you're filtering at the moment. You're saying, okay, so that happened, I'm fine, there's no pain, so that's muscle soreness, for example. And like very often, because I also treat like younger people, so like ages like 10 to 15, quite a lot, I see that they have trouble distinguishing what their feeling is. Like if it's pain, if it's just a little glitch that went away, if it's something that stays there, like, and this is exactly what you're saying. And as we were becoming adults and more experienced with using our bodies, we understand more those feelings and those sensations, and it's important to listen to the body.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of leads me on to my next question is, what would you say, or what advice would you give to, you know, you were talking about the younger dancers, but I also would think in that category you have people who are, let's say in air quotes, the casual dancer. So someone that's like, you know, I think it's quite obvious for someone in maybe, let's say, Sunny's position, right? Or Karam's position, where it's like you're, you know, in constant demand of like high level competitions. You recognize that the moves you're doing are very physically demanding, and you're on big world stages. There's potentially big money involved, or at least big visibility. So you're like, okay, what I'm doing is fairly important and therefore all the things that come with it, I have to raise my level. I'm sure they think even harder about what they're wearing on stage than they used to, because they're in front of a big audience. So in the same way, they probably think about, okay, well, if I'm going to warm up, I can't just be doing rubbish warm-ups like I used to. I've got to do a real warm-up. I've got to do a real stretch, whatever it might be. And probably their nutrition is different because they're on a bigger stage, right? And I think that's, for most people, I think that the general feeling is, when I get to that level, I'll start caring. You know, when I'm Olympic b-boy, then, you know, obviously I'll do a real warm up, of course. Well, it's the Olympics, but it's like, how do you convince people that, you know, just hanging out at home, ciphering with some friends, or go into a class on, you know, after work because you feel like you want to move a little bit, that's equally as important in order to get to those levels, you know?
First of all, I don't think that everybody has to get to that level. Sure. I think it's okay if they don't.
Yeah, of course.
And I am a believer that not everybody's body is made for the same thing as another person's. Some people might have to work harder, or some people may have some, impairments, disabilities that may not let them get there, and that's fine. I think that's fine. I learned that the hard way. But no matter what level we are, no matter what our goals are, I think trying to be healthy is equally important. It's essential. Your body is your temple, and you will probably not even stay at the level that you're at if you don't do something about it. So, for example, the age, like we even see that in decades. So we even see the specific similarities in people that are like 10 to 15, 5 to 20, like in their 20s, in their 30s, like we start seeing shifts. And this is all like scientifically proven, and this also occurs in other sports. It's not just in dance. There's like specific trends, let's say, that the body goes throughout like different timings. So even if you're vulnerable when you're like up to like 24, 25, when you start going closer to like the 30s and the 40s, you're not going to be, not vulnerable. If you think you're invincible.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. The more you go like closer to 30s and 40s, you'll see that you're more vulnerable. And it's because of the shifts that your body goes through. And that's when people start saying, oh, I can't do that anymore. I need to do like my 5-minute yoga exercises every minute, every day, or else like my back is stuck. Yeah, but why is your back stuck? Maybe because for the previous 15 years, you've been doing like something that is now like manifesting in your body. So it's the indistracto phenomenon. It's what I say in my lectures as well.
Okay.
This phenomenon basically says that if something has not occurred to you, so if I haven't had like a very serious injury, I really think that I'm invincible, but probably all you guys will get it, but not me.
Yeah.
Like the same thing that we think with like car accidents.
Yeah.
This is never going to happen to me.
Yeah.
Like this can happen to anyone.
And it just needs to happen once.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. So we just have to be a bit smarter. I think it's a case of ignorance and mal-education.
Yeah. And it's, I guess in a way, like a cognitive bias where because like, for example, because you haven't been hit by a car, you don't take care when crossing the road. But once you've been hit by a car, you take care, and you think, if I get hit by a car, I'll start taking care of how I cross the road. And it's kind of the similar with our body. If I have injuries and I feel stuff, I'll start doing this. Or when I start to put on weight, I'll start eating right. And it's like, it should be flipped. It's like if you don't look after your body, you're going to get injured. If you don't eat right, you're going to put on weight, or whatever it might be. And it's actually flipped to what we think.
Exactly. And there's many like theories in psychology that are proven, that if you haven't experienced something, you just don't pay attention to it until you have experienced it. And then if you do experience it, fear, you have fear over you, and you might stop doing it. So if a car hits me when I'm crossing the road, I might never cross the road again. But is that worth it? I should have just known that I have to look to the right, to the left, to the right, and then cross, for example.
Yeah. I mean, it's in a way like a human thing to learn from our mistakes, no? But it's something that it's like, okay, cool. On a smaller scale, you can afford to do that. But, especially if you're a dancer, whether or not you're professional, like you said, like even if it's just a casual hobby, like if you're doing these type of things, you can't really afford to mess around with those things. So you can't really afford to learn from your mistakes in these big ways, because they're career-ending things sometimes. And how many stories do we hear of in any discipline that's physical, where it's like, oh, I could have, in England, the typical thing is like, oh, I could have played for Arsenal, but I had a knee injury, or all of these things where people had potential, but then there was an injury, or oh, I was gonna do this and then I got injured and I had to do this. And it's like, it's such a common thing, but something that just completely changes the trajectory of people's lives. And it's like, if you just prepared earlier, that might not have happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really passionate about this, and this is what's driving like Breakalign,
Mm-hmm.
because this is exactly what happened to me. Like after my surgery, I got an impairment on my shoulder. So
Okay.
now, like you can't see it when you see me,
Yeah.
or like when you see me casually dancing, but actually like my one arm cannot do what the other one can. And like it's many times that I had problems in auditions where my arm could not do the exact shape that it needed, or in like when we were touring and we were like a company, we all have to do the same thing. I could not do like the same thing with one arm.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, like my arm doesn't rotate. This arm doesn't rotate
Oh
in.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. From the shoulder, it
So
doesn't rotate back.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. And that restrains me in many things
I
that
bet.
I do. And it's not visible, but it's there. And there's many people that have little things like this,
Yeah.
and they consider them weakness. And yes, it is a weakness in my movement. It is.
Mm,
But I think, the fact that I have this problem, it made me very strong to actually be vocal about Breakalign and, really believe in what I'm doing. And I
yeah.
don't care what people say. Like, you have to listen.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree, and I think it's definitely something that we need to be more aware of, and to pay attention to on all levels. Even if you're just a casual person teaching a class or whatever, and it's just once a week, or you're taking a class and it's just a hobby, it's like you still need to, take care of your body. So
Yeah.
in terms of Breakalign's work, I guess with you said as your physio work, you're doing more with like contemporary and ballet dancers, right? Do you?
When I'm based here, yeah. When I
Ah,
travel, it's usually breakers
okay,
and
cool.
hip hop dance.
Is there stuff that that they? Because I think something that we forget with these dance styles is they're like hundreds of years old, and ours is like max 50 or 60, right? So it's like, as much as dance has been around forever, like our specific culture hasn't. So I think, is there stuff that they have kind of figured out and is more common knowledge than that we have, or is there gaps between the two, or are they just as as lost as us?
They're not as lost as us, no. So dance medicine and science as a field has existed since, I would say, like 30 years, like officially 30 years now.
Oh, okay, that's not long.
um yeah, so when it first started, the information that was already out there came from sports science, so like sports medicine and science. So a lot of things to initiate, basically, and to also gain the interest of scientists to become dance scientists,
Mm,
came from sports.
okay,
And like sports science is still like on a higher level than like dance science,
sure.
but we are getting there, and there's a lot of publications now, there's a lot of researchers, there's a lot of like really elite researchers in dance medicine and science. And it's what I always say, like it's important to be involved in the field, in this field, to understand the dancers. It's not enough to be a dancer and
Yeah.
just practice your physio or your sports science. You have to learn like dance medicine science specific
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and be in the field to mingle with like other researchers of this field. It's very important to understand the difference.
Yeah.
um yeah.
Yeah. And so in the kind of day-to-day life of, let's say, like a contemporary dancer or a ballet dancer, are they doing things that is like second nature to them that we wouldn't even, I would assume, I've done some work with like Rambert and a couple of other like companies where, you see the warm-ups that they're doing, you see the strength and condition. It's just normal for them to do these things. But I guess more on a scientific level, do you get the ballet dancers and contemporary dancers come in and they're like, they've diagnosed exactly, they're like, I think I have this, and they have like way more knowledge on a general level?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to add that in the previous
That's all
question you
right.
asked. Yeah, well, there is a lot more evidence based on ballet and contemporary. So we do have a lot of publications and articles on that sector. So
Okay.
there is a lot more information than in any hip hop styles on that.
Mm,
Yes, but of course, we need to keep in mind that ballet, for example, is a very systematized style. Like
mm,
even when you start learning it, you have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Like everything is very structured and it's like
yes.
boxed. And then when you become a professional, you can let go and just
Yeah.
go beyond. But breaking or hip hop or any of these styles don't have that, because they grew in a different way, because the culture is different. So that makes it a bit more problematic to box it. And that was the first problem we had to face in Breakalign. Like when we started, this is what we were discussing, like how do we do it when there's no syllabus? Because there is syllabus in ballet. So
and you would pair your knowledge and your training alongside the level that you're at, I guess. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, it's like you have like a sets of steps that this level that like go with that level. When you're in that level, it's this set of steps, and it goes like that.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to create like a syllabus for breaking, just for the sake of our research. We haven't published like the syllabus anywhere. We just created it to help us put it in a box and a sequence, basically. So all these like dancers that you see, like Rambert, English National Ballet, and all of them, like they're established companies with their own physios, their own doctors, like in-house.
Yeah.
They have like insurance for all that. They have their salaries, like everything is in place. And like I really do hope we can get there, like with the hip hop styles. There's a long way to go, but we need to first like prove some things like within dance medicine and science, and have some facts before we establish something like that. And we need more therapists that understand these dances and explore them. And as I said, it's not enough to just be like a hip hop dancer and a physio. You need to understand the link between the two as well. And that's education as well.
Yeah. And I guess also maybe it's like, again, it's this vicious circle thing where it's like the more professionals we have in dance and the more high level competitions or whatever it is, the more we would have physios employed and things like that to work for them. But then unless we have those dance specific ones, we're not going to be able to build our dancers up to a level to be able to do this professionally. I would imagine that I don't know, have you done any work in kind of like the commercial dance world or like tours and stuff? Because I would imagine with the amount of money they have, and like Beyonce's dancers probably have a physio, right?
Yeah, probably.
Have you done any work in that realm, or would you?
I haven't, but I do have like colleagues from the dance medicine science field that like tour with West End basically, or tour with cruise ships, for example. I mean, therapists that tour with them.
Yeah.
So there is that capacity, and it's probably because of financial stability that area has.
Yeah, because you can't afford to lose a dancer mid-tour, can you?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's also important to have like physio staff that know what to do at the moment that the injury occurs, and then they have to get back on stage. So that's a whole different type of education.
Really?
And mindset.
So that's that. So can you expand on that a bit? Like when you say it's a whole different type of education, is that like a whole different field almost? They're like in the moment injury fixing.
It's a little bit like think of it as an ambulance, like a first aid. It's like a first aid physio. You need to know what to do like at that moment. And like as physios, we do learn first aid, but we just learn first aid so that people don't die, they don't bleed to death, all those things. But you need to also learn the first aid that happens like backstage. There's like specific courses that support just that that treatment.
Which is because I would imagine, I think there's also this stereotype in dance, which I think definitely isn't a healthy thing, but there's maybe some truth in it, that like every time you go to the doctor with an injury, they just say don't dance. Like, there's so many dancers that, like, I had this conversation maybe 2 days ago with someone that like hurt something, I forget what it was, and they were saying, oh yeah, I'm not going to go to the doctor because they're just going to tell me to take time off, so I'm just going to figure out, like, I'll figure it out.
Painkillers.
Yeah. And I think maybe there's a little bit of truth in that, because they're seeing people that aren't specialists, so their immediate thing is, well, just stop doing that thing and rest. And it's like, cool, but if my living is based on this, how do I for sure there's a time when you have to stop, but is there a possibility for me to keep going if I do this, or what's the quickest way back to recovery? And I guess that what you were saying is that to the extreme version of like, right, you've got half a minute before you have to get back on stage. What can I do and what can I say now to like get this, or I guess making a decision and saying, yes, you can go back on stage, or listen, if you go back on stage, that's your career, and knowing the difference.
Yeah. But yeah, what you said here is very, very appropriate. That's the idea of having like dance medicine science specialists. Exactly. That they understand all the components of it, and also the psychological component. Like, how is that going to affect the dancer if they have to sit out for 2 weeks? Do you understand like the impact? They can probably go back there and just modify what they're doing until we can fix this, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, usually like a random doctor who might be a good doctor, actually. It doesn't mean they're not a good doctor. They just don't understand this. And also the thing that you said, like if you get injured, like during the show, for example, yeah, it is a choice. Sometimes we have to offer the two choices. Okay, if you go back, this, like there's a possibility of this. If you stay, you're losing this. But if you broke it, for example, whatever, we're not risking, needing a surgery. So yeah, it is about risk-taking, decision-making, and having somebody who's qualified to identify all the dangers that you have. In like a few minutes, like my patient, she has a ballet performance in 3 days, and she sprained her ankle. So we need to do something really fast so that she can get like in the show.
Do you mind discussing what you're thinking with her?
Well, I haven't seen her. I'm going to see her now.
Okay.
Like the first time. Well, I'm going to apply like the best first aid that I can, and she probably has a swollen foot, so I'm going to try to get that away as much as possible, like using my hands, like really conservative treatment, because that's what you really need at this stage, and just work with her and support her, and probably see her every day leading on to there, and trying to not, since she will probably know like all her choreographies and stuff, just don't stress it until the day of the show, so that we can have a leg on the show and not break it,
Nice. Okay, that's really interesting. And okay, just a couple more things that I wanted to ask you. So in terms of, there's a lot of treatments that I feel like are like trendy in the dance scene sometimes. And I was just wondering your take on some of those. Like, are there, I don't know, like I hear people do stuff like acupuncture. I hear people do stuff like the cupping stuff and all these different things. Is there some of those that you would advise? Is there some of those you would advise against? Is there some that are like, don't do anything? Like where should people be going for these type of things? Like even different massages and stuff like that.
As far as evidence-based treatments, from what I'm aware, from what I have read, the main thing is that there's no like one single type of treatment that can help you the most, as much as like a few together. So just going for one specific thing can probably, help you with something, but not necessarily help you like fix everything that's wrong with you, or see you holistically. So I'm a believer of doing a lot of different things. Like I work a lot with my hands, with like mobilization, with exercises, with massage, like soft tissue. So I do a few different things that I think can, work in a more circular way. And even if one of those doesn't work, probably the other ones will. So I never just use one.
So don't get too attached to one thing.
Yeah, that's what I think. Of course, if you only do acupuncture and you feel that it's a bliss for your body, then, your body is the best judge for that. However, I'm not very supportive of people who use treatments that come from Chinese medicine and they haven't really studied Chinese medicine. Like I really respect and appreciate that, that type of school, but you really have to get educated in that school and not just use needles because you're a physio. You need to understand what those needles do exactly. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I mean, I guess that's advice for everything. Don't do stuff that you're not educated in. And I guess also, so you're going to be in the UK for the world famous Breakin Convention. Tell us a bit about what you're going to be doing on that weekend.
Okay, so on the Saturday, 30th of April, we're teaching a Breakalign workshop at 10:30 a.m. until 12. The workshop will cover injury prevention and management before and after tactics. So what do you do to not get injured? What do you do after, during your injury? What do you do after? So some bits and tactics that I think are useful for dancers and probably don't have enough education on that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the workshop.
When you say workshop, is it like a active thing, or is it more like a sitting in like a lecture kind of situation, or is it like you're up and doing stuff?
It's both. There will be up and as well as talking. So it's like a mixture.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then we're also providing backstage treatments that's happening in association with One Dance UK. So we do this every year. So we're going to be like 3 physios, sports massage therapists backstage offering treatments to the dancers of the festival.
So if you're performing, you can go, you can check you out and get a massage, get a treatment, get an analysis, I guess, of like if there's something bugging you, you can say.
Well, it's small slots, so we just try to help as many people as we can. You just need to speak to Karine from Breakin Convention, and she can book you in. Like we have specific slots that I have to pre-book. To get. So that's another thing. And then we also have this podcast with all this information.
Yeah, and there's going to be more coming up. There's more coming. Cool. So if you're not performing in Breakin Convention and you're just someone that's coming along to watch, you can check out the workshop. You can go along, even if you're not a dancer. I guess anyone can benefit from this type of thing. Even if you do something else physical, or you just want to know more about the body. I'm assuming this stuff is transferable skills. Nobody's going to feel like, oh, I didn't learn anything because I'm not a breaker. I'm sure everyone can learn from this type of thing.
Well, the workshop is not just for breakers. It's for we cover all hip hop dancers because it's Breakin Convention. We have to be more spread out. Oh, and we're doing one more thing. I forgot. We're also doing another study that we're doing, a research study. So we will be calling out for breakers to come and fill in a survey, basically.
Ooh, okay.
During the days of the festival. Yeah, this is specific for breakers, this research.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have a few people from Breakalign just collecting some data there on the stage door, Lillian Bailey's.
Amazing. So, okay, will there be a sign? How will we know?
They're going to wear the t-shirts.
Cool, Breakalign t-shirts. So if you're at Breakin... Yeah. So if you're at Breakin Convention and you see someone in a Breakalign t-shirt, go and tell them all about your injuries. Cool. So that sounds amazing. So you're doing a lot with Breakin Convention and One Dance UK. It's going to be great to have you guys there. And I think even just besides obviously the individual help that you're going to give to the people that you work with or the people that come to the workshop, I think it's just great to start to normalize having you guys around. It's like, okay, we're putting on a big festival. There's a physio backstage, there's someone doing this treatment backstage. It's just needs to become more of a normal part of everything. And, I get there's low budgets on stuff and it's hard to think about all these things in the budget. But the more we push towards normalizing, I was talking about this where maybe 7 years ago, people didn't film battles. It wasn't a normal thing to have a videographer. Now every battle has a videographer. And it's because with social media and stuff, it became normalized that, you can't really run a battle without there being footage afterwards. And if you do, it's maybe a really small one. But pretty much everything from super small to big level have the videos come out after. And it's cool. That's a progression in maybe 5 years. It should be easy that we can work towards having a physio around, So yeah, I think that's great, the work that you're doing, and on behalf of the scene, we thank you. No, just as a dancer, it's nice to know that people care. I've had some injuries before, thankfully not any big ones, but yeah, I'm constantly aware that I need to do better in terms of my body, and I'm the first one to say I'm not doing my best. So we can all change, guys. Last thing is, how can people get in contact with you if they want to follow your work, check you out, if they want to maybe ask you questions or get treatments from you or anything like that? Where can they find you? How can they get in contact?
So we have our website, www.projectbreakalign.com, which we are revamping now. So you'll probably see the old one now, but cool. In a month, probably we'll have the new one. We have our email, projectbreakalign@gmail.com. We offer a free service for injured dancers where they can email us. We can send them a template and they can fill it in about their injury, and we can offer them free advice if they cannot access a professional. free advice as much as possible from online,
Sure. It's like you can't see the things.
Yeah, it's just some people are in really inaccessible areas or they cannot afford it, so we try to help as much as possible.
Amazing.
And of course, social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, Project Breakalign.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks.
Of course, yeah, it's lovely to speak to you again. It's been a while. Besides our email threads. Thank you to Breakin Convention. Thank you to One Dance UK. I'm going to be at Breakin Convention weekend. I'm going to check my schedule, but I might stop in for that for your workshop if I can. And yeah, looking forward to the festival. Looking forward to seeing you. And yeah, I think that's all the bases covered. And
yes.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. There's going to be more episodes coming up on this collaboration series. Different experts in their fields, different topics. So please tune in, keep an eye out. Obviously, there's other episodes of the Duke London podcast that I've done previously. There's also the Capsule if you want to check it out and follow. So at thecapsule.ldn, because I'm based in LDN. And we do a weekly podcast on the UK dance scene. I also have a bunch of interviews where I speak to different dancers around the scene. We have our Instagram where we kind of keep everyone up to date with what's happening, show you some highlights from around the scene, and sometimes make you laugh. So yeah, check all that out as well. And we'll see you very soon for the next episode. Thanks, Nefeli.
Yay, thank you. See everybody at Breakin Convention.
See ya.